I spoke about the, policies that cripple investment in mining. And what's got a lot of people concerned is the Queensland state government's coal royalty grab. That has just come into effect. That has massively jacked up the royalties on coal. Won't this undermine the future of the industry that has actually done so much for Queensland's growth?
Yeah, it's now the highest royalty coal regime in the world.
Oh, wow.
It's madness, isn't it?
Crazy.
I know, it's shocking and it's madness because what the Queensland government has said is we're going to tax the good times. We're going to tax you when you have good prices for coal. We're not going to be standing with you when they're poor, less than the cost of production prices. We're just going to tax the cream. And as any business knows, that's so unreasonable and unfair because an investment needs to take into account, the highs and lows of the cycle. But Queensland, like this Labor federal government, both fund the Environmental Defenders Office. Federal government, $9.8 million to challenge government decisions. So between the layering of regulation from the federal government and the state government, interventions into the gas market, royalty increases, industrial relations, the mandatory code of conduct, changes to the PRRT tax, all of these things is racing us towards Australia being uninvestable. Now, this is a shocking place to be, but when I see companies saying that Ecuador is more secure than Australia, when I see companies saying Indonesia is a more secure investment location than Australia, when I see companies saying they're exploring and investing in Alaska, Canada, Mexico over Australia, then we have a problem because, and we have to be very clear on this, Australians need to be very clear that this Labor government is driving investment offshore, they're driving prosperity offshore. I don't want to look back as a grandmother, say to my kids, I remember when I grew up in a country that was so prosperous we had choices on how we invested our taxes. But that is exactly where this Labor government's taking us, Daisy, and we should be angry about it. We should be angry because we are so prosperous that we are now choosing to make impractical decisions that undermine our investability in this nation.
Yeah, it's outrageous where it's going. Honestly, it's so short-sighted. Yes. Now, look, one of the chief complaints that we hear about mining is its impact on our environment, most notably climate change. But look, I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask you anyway. Would shutting down or disincentivizing investment in mining, one of Australia's primary industries, even make one dent on the climate condition?
Well, the number is 1.3% of the world's emissions come out of Australia. And in return for that, we supply thermal coal for steel making. We supply nickel and copper and cobalt for transmission lines and battery making. In fact, it is such an incredibly long list of what our minerals are used in. Our gas, our clean Australian natural gas, underpins the light staying on in Tokyo and Seoul. These are important trading relationships that our trade partners, our allies, rely on us to deliver. And as we want to invest in more critical minerals, Australia has great provenance. We don't have to worry that we have minerals coming out of places that have slave labour, child labour. We, in fact, have a mining regime that is second to none in the world. Our standards, whether they be in workplace health and safety, environment, these are all the best. So why would you shut down investment in Australia to have it go offshore to countries where that is not the case? We would actually have worse environmental outcomes, worse emissions, worse people outcomes, and Australians would be poorer. I mean, Daisy, this is so dumb, both from the Queensland state government in its royalties decision and this federal Labor government, which is doing its absolute best to make sure that Australians of the future will be poorer with a lower quality of living and with less good environmental outcomes. It's almost like the trifecta, isn't it? How do we get the worst outcome in every sector? And that's what Labor's running us towards.